Greetings and welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to be talking about a pretty funny build, actually. I call it the Upheaval Knievel because we're using sword and board. We're going to use the Upheaval skill, which is the new skill that replaced the old reverse stab that no one liked to use because it was just a really horrible skill to actually land. But Upheaval, super fun, hits like a truck, very nice. We're also using a fire staff, namely the Inferno fire staff. So we're basically playing a hybrid here. Fire staff, sword and board, really interesting build. Love playing it. Feels great. So let's get into it. Let me show you guys the stats real quick. So we're basically doing 300 strength, 150 intelligence, 150 constitution. Why are we doing this? Why are we not putting everything in strength? Well, here's the thing. You can if you want. If you want to play full strength, you can do that. It's going to make your sword and board going to hit way harder, because your sword basically scales off of strength, also scales off dexterity. You could technically also do like a strength dexterity split. The reason I went with intelligence is because we're still using a fire staff, and even though the fire staff scales off of strength, what doesn't scale off of strength is the dots. The dots are just not great on the fire staff if you just only go for strength. So a little bit of intelligence actually goes a long way on this thing. With 300 strength, the fire staff is going to hit pretty hard already. You're going to do good damage with it. And then having the extra intelligence allows us to kind of get a little bit more. We get extra damage increase to backstabs and random critical hits. Of course, you can't backstab with the fire staff, but you're going to get more damage out of your critical hits. You're going to get more damage when you have damage over time effects on your target, which you're always going to have. You're going to get more damage to your light and heavy elemental attacks, which, you're going to do. And then this one's the kind of big one, 10% elemental damage, just flat. So that makes sure that the majority of the damage comes from strength and is then amplified by the intelligence passives that we have. So that makes sure that your fire staff feels a lot better than it would do if you only had strength. Sure, with strength, you can still hit decently hard, but your dots are going to be just not very satisfying. One of the big things about a fire staff is the dot damage that you can get from all the burn dots, and they really do a lot. Like I would say it's probably like around like 20 to 30% of your outgoing damage is the dots. And the difference between a full strength build and like a mixed build is drastic. You're basically doubling the damage of your dots. You're getting a lot more damage out of it. So that's really, really nice to have. So if you care about dots, definitely go with the 150 intelligence here. But of course, by doing that, our sword doesn't hit quite as hard. But to kind of make up for that, we put a void damage gem in. And that means up to like 75% of the damage gets converted to void damage, which also allows us to take advantage of, the extra elemental damage that we're going to get here. And that kind of makes sure that our sword and board still hits decently hard. I've done a lot of tests, and I think this is kind of the best split if you want to have decent damage on both weapons. So yeah, that's basically the reason we're doing it. And of course, you're getting all the strength passives here that are really, really nice. You get the extra light attack, heavy attack damage, physical damage, which you're going to need. The stamina regen is quite nice. Damage on stunned, slowed, or rooted enemies, also super nice because you're going to be able to do that. Extra stamina regen while performing basic melee attacks, also pretty good. And then the 7% base damage while under 90% health, very nice. Of course, if you had a little bit more, you could get the 10% base damage increase to all abilities, which, that's a great thing. I'll say this, if you feel comfortable in this build, if you're very comfortable playing kind of like an assassin style, maybe drop the constitution. Maybe drop the constitution a little bit. You're probably going to go down to like 12 or 13, depending on how low you go. But yeah, if you add like just another like 38 points in here, you could potentially get this one. But I feel like the build is squishy enough as is, so I don't want to go any squishier. I like having a little bit more survivability. But yeah, this is, I think, the best split. Let's look at the weapon masteries. So for sword and board, we're going to be using Leaping Strike, Upheaval, and Shield Bash. So I've been playing this with Whirling Blade too, Whirling Blade, super nice to have too. But I think with the Shield Bash, it's easier to set up that combo, and it makes sense, and I'll explain it in a second. So Leaping Strike, of course, is a gap closer, deals a good amount of damage, puts a slow on people. Where is the slow? Yeah, there it is. Yeah, successfully it inflicts a slow, which comes in handy over here. There it is. Upheaval hits against targets inflict with crowd control, stun, root, slow are going to do more damage. So you're going to leap them, and you can upheaval them, or you're going to leap them, shield bash them, upheaval them. No matter what you do, you're always going to get the extra damage. So even if you just leap people and you hit them, following up with a upheaval is going to already give you the extra damage. And then, of course, if you want to shield bash them to kind of like really make sure that they're not going to get away, that's going to be super nice. For people that don't have any freedom on, what you can do is you can leap them, then shield bash them, and then do a heavy attack into an upheaval. Because with the heavy attack here, with the empowered stat passive, successful heavy attacks grant you 30% empower. So you know what that means, right? That's a 30% empower. And then you have 20% empower here. That also already gets you to a 50% empower, which is the empower max. So you're basically not going to benefit from any more empowers here. But let's say you're not doing that, and you have the contagious upheaval perk, which is going to give you 18% more damage. Well, just having this passive here and the other one is already going to give you almost 40%, right? So no matter what you do this one, and you're going to do an upheaval that's going to be almost 50%. You're going to do this one, and then this one, it's going to give you almost 40%. So you're going to have a lot of empowers pretty much regardless of how you approach your target. There's always going to be like some empower that you're going to get. But yeah, like I said, Leaping Strike into an upheaval. We would definitely want to take all the passives here. Same thing on Shield Bash. We want to take all the passives here. This one is not important, but this one kind of is. You know, increases the critical hit chance for your next hit within 5 seconds by 50%. That's, of course, great. Making sure that even if you don't backstab with an upheaval, you're still going to have a very high chance of critting with your upheaval, which, you know, just make sure you're really going to drive that damage home. And then when it comes to other passes, of course, Empowered Stab, Precision, we're going for Opportunist, 10% more damage on slowed foes, as we already established. We're going to have a slow here, so that's just free damage again, you know, more empower for you. While health is full, 15% more base damage. Super nice when you're initiating a fight, you're starting a fight at full health. Getting that initial damage is super nice. And then on critical, you gain a little bit of haste. You know, very useful when you're like trading with people and maybe you're taking a little bit too much damage. You kind of have to reposition. Having that 20% health helps you get away from them, pop a potion, and then get back in. We're taking the leadership here while holding a sword, grant empower to all group members, increasing their damage by 10%. Another empower, just always on you. You're always going to have that. Very nice. That's what I'm saying. You're always going to have a lot of empower, pretty much regardless of what you do. You're going to hit pretty hard. And then over here, we're taking elemental resistance. We're taking one with the shield. This one's not super important. The only reason we're taking this one is we have to get down here. And this allows us to get this thing here. It allows us to get this thing here. Right? Like without this, we can't get further down the passives here unless we use this one. When you block an attack, gain 20% fortify, which sounds good, and you can definitely take that if you want to block more with the shield. I don't take any block passives on builds like this because we're on light armor. We're running around shield, and light armor around shield is not great for blocking. Like, I wouldn't rely on blocking too much. You can block small hits here and there, which I do, but I still don't feel comfortable really wasting points on block passives. That's more for builds that are more designed to block hits, which this build is absolutely not. But this allows us, of course, to get down here, gain 15% 15 stamina when hitting a target with Shield Bash or Shield Rush. Super nice, gonna, you know, help you maintain your stamina a little bit. And this one's super important too. All incoming heals and regeneration increased by 10%, right? So that's the sword and board. Let's look at the fire staff. You're using the fireball. We're using incinerate. and we're using Burnout. Burnout, of course, great for mobility, great for getting in or out of a situation, and great to just like put burn dots on a lot of people. And hits pretty hard too. So the way I like to do my combos is when I attack either a single target or multiple targets. So I like to start with a fireball from range, right? Throw in the fireball, maybe with a heavy attack fireball. Then I burn out into the group. I try to hit my burnout so that the explosion after hitting my burnout, right after I'm arriving there, that I mostly I hit everybody in that group, right? I'm trying to really like if you don't hit, it's not that big of a deal. But if you go through people and then also land that end hit, which is super nice. This one here, extra 100% damage to all targets within 2.5 meters. You know, going through, putting the dots on, hitting them with the initial damage, and then the explosion. Super nice. So I'm trying to line it up in a way where I can hit them with the heated up explosion at the end. And then once I'm in the stack, I'm popping an incinerate, which does a lot of damage too, puts more smolder stacks on, it staggers people, and then I usually, I roll out, or I use my hard rune, which is the dark ascent that makes you fly up. Because what that does is, it just adds extra damage, but it also kind of gives you some not invulnerability, but people will probably not hit you up there. You're not supposed to get hit anyway, but I've seen certain abilities can hit you when you fly up there. So basically, you pop a fireball, you burn out in, you pop the incinerate, and then you fly up. Because what that does is people are going to try to attack you right after the stagger is over from incinerate. They're going to try to attack you, but you're flying above their heads then. And then you come back down, you're going to stagger them again, going to do a lot of damage. If you've taken any damage, you're going to out heal that by using the leeching ascent, and by just staggering and basically knocking them back a little bit, you usually create a pathway for you to leave, so you can kind of like roll out of there and then maybe use the leaping strike to create some distance. So that's usually how I approach a group when I want to put some damage in. Like I said, fireball, burnout in, incinerate, you fly up, you come down, you knock them again, and then you use the the little knockback to create a path for you to escape, and then you go, and then you repeat that. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So we're taking all the passives on this one. We're not taking the passives here because you don't really need them. Like this is not super important for this build. So I wouldn't recommend using the incinerate passives here, because this allows us to get other way more important passives, right? So fireball, all the passives, burnout, all the passives, incinerate, none of the passives. And then we're going for clear mind, holding fire staff above 50% mana gain, gets you 5% in power. Why not? Singe, really nice, inflicts smolder stacks when you light or heavy attack. You always want to have that. That's very important. Clear casting after not taking damage from an attack in last 3 seconds gain empower. So another empower here, easy peasy. Firestaff has a lot of empowers, so that's why Firestaff usually hits pretty hard. Flare is one that I like to use a lot, because when you pop a heavy attack on someone, you get that 1 meter splash that deals 120% damage. And one thing you can do with this as well is you can shoot the floor beneath someone, and that will still trigger that explosion and hit them. And in certain situations, I always aim at the floor, because I know that aiming at a person might not hit, because it's only 1 meter splash, right? It might not be able to hit the next guy next to him. But if I aim at the floor between two people, I can make the 1 meter splash hit both of them. So when there's a group of people and they're a little staggered, I hit them with like a flare, and I see it doesn't really splash everyone in that group. I try to kind of like find the middle of the group and hit the floor right at their feet, so that the splash kind of hits everybody in that area. And that's very nice. I really like it. It just helps get more AoE damage out on people, and especially if you use backdraft, which I highly recommend. This kind of has some synergy too. So backdraft is when you have 3 stacks of smolder, hit someone with a heavy attack, you get a big explosion, right? like you consume your smolder stacks, you get a big explosion. This one has a 2-meter radius, right? So double the radius. 150% weapon damage, and this thing 120. So that's quite a lot of weapon damage. And if you hit a heavy attack on someone and you get that flare and you get that smolder, there's the backdraft explosion too. That's a lot of AoE that spreads out and just hits a lot of people. So I always like doing this. It's great when you're really trying to put some pressure on and there's multiple people fighting and you're kind of like the mage from a distance. You can really put a lot of damage in there, put smolder stacks on everybody, and then just kind of cash in with those big AoEs. But yeah, over here, yeah, this one we talked about, and then Prophet of a Fire God. While holding Fire Staff, your critical strike chance is critical strike damage is increased by 15%, makes it hit nice and hard. Then over here, we're taking Pyromania, we're taking Heat Up, we're taking Kindle. You know, that one's super important because Smolder effect lasts 20% longer. As I said, the burn dots are a big part of your damage, and making them last longer is really going to help you out. Just you know, creating more damage. If you're a little bit of a stat pattern and OPRs, that's gonna just give you, you know, more damage over time on more people that, you know, last longer. So why not? But also, you know, when people run away, you know, you hit them with a nice combo, they run away. You know, having that extra duration on your smolder stacks can mean that they just die to the burn dots, which happens quite a lot actually. And that's why this is super important. Watch it burn. This one's important. Combat speed, you always want to have this one on because that extra haste goes a long way. And then trial by fire, also not super important, but definitely take that. And by not taking the incinerate passives, it allows us to hit the really like important ones for the fire staff. But yeah, that's the fire staff. Let's look at our gear. So what I'm running here is basically, this is like all PvP gear, and we have shirking heals on everything, right? We got shirking heals, refreshing thrust conditioning on this one. I leave it up to you what you want for your defensive skills, whether you want to have health or, you know, physical or elemental aversion or enchanted or whatever, you know, like whatever you want to build against, I leave that up to you. I know it's not so easy to just get the best in slot pieces. So the important thing is shirking heals here, okay? That's really the important part. Refreshing is super nice to have. If you can get a couple pieces, definitely do that. Like I said, other pieces, whatever you can get, but shirking heals is important for a build like this. This one, shirking fort, shirking heals health. That's a really good piece. Look at this. Double shirking heal, double shirkings, and then the health is really gonna go a long way. This one, invigorated. All right, I gotta say something about invigorated. So in the last video, I said invigorated isn't great, and I had someone comment on the video that clearly I don't know what I'm talking about because invigorated is great. And by stating that I don't like it, it shows that I don't know anything about the game. Well, here's the thing. When I say invigorated isn't great, what I mean is it's not great for this build. You don't need it for this build. Okay? If you love invigorated, hey, by all means, put it on all your pieces, roll in it, love it, marry it. I don't care. If you love invigorated so much, just run it. You know, I'm not telling you you need to run these pieces. I'm just giving you an example of what I'm running. And when I say invigorated, it's not great. I don't need it. I don't like it. Then that's my opinion. And that's true for this build. If you want to run it, hey, please be my guest. Run your invigorated. But don't leave these dumb comments under my videos, okay? That's all I'm asking. But yeah, here again, shirking and health, very nice. This one here, shirking, refreshing. Got fire harnessing on this one. It's not my top pick, but of course we're using fire, so it makes sense. And then, of course, we got the tumbler feed wraps, which is great, you know, because we got the shirking blessing, get physical aversion, refreshing, and I put shirking heals on this one, so another load of shirking. We get a ton of healing when we're dodging attacks. Super nice. On the weapons, of course, Inferno, the staff that makes it all possible. Inner power. If your strength attribute is higher, replace your base weapon scaling with strength. That's what's happening here. Then 15% damage when you hit a target within 15 meters. So I have not really fully tested this, But a lot of people are saying that the 15%, even though it is not mentioned in the tooltip, applies to both weapons. Like I said, I haven't fully tested it. I think it does, but if you have any like clear data on this, feel free to share it. If it does it or not doesn't really matter. If it does, great, 15% more damage. If it doesn't, who cares? Build is still working just as fine. But yeah, just keep in mind that a lot of people are claiming that the 15% increase is working on both weapons. And if that's the case, then it's absolutely great. It comes with keenly empowered, comes with vicious, and I put abyssal attunement on. So why did I do this? Well, I had the choice between a couple different things. I could have put fireball on here. I could have put incinerate on here. Burnout, technically too, but I usually never go for that. So if you want to put fireball or incinerate on, great. The reason I haven't done it is because I was asking myself, what if I'm playing a different build with this staff? What if I want to play a different build where I'm not using fireball or I'm not using incinerate, but I'm using other skills? And then I thought, yeah, that would be a waste to have a a weapon perk on here that I'm then not using. So I decided to put Abyssal Attunement on because that is always going to come in handy, no matter what kind of build you play with this. No matter if you use a skill or if you use a light or a heavy attack, it doesn't matter. You're always going to benefit from Abyssal Attunement. And why Abyssal specifically from all the attunements? Because I have this ring here, which is great: Hardy, Healing Breeze, Strength, and extra void damage. And that's why I chose that, because I have this ring. So I chose the void damage because that's going to increase the void damage on this one. So I'm going to just get a little bit of extra void damage out of my abyssal attunement here, right? When it comes to the sword, we went with Keen Rogue, Contagious Upheaval. Now, Keen is not super important. As you saw, we have some passives that increase the crit chance on the sword board. But Rogue, I think, is really important, and the Contagious Upheaval, once it is re-enabled, is gonna definitely do great things for you by giving you 18% more damage on your upheaval. Right now, it's not active, so we're missing those 18% damage, but you definitely want it on there because they're probably gonna reactivate it next week. So by the time you watch the video, it might already be on again. Keen, like I said, not super important. There's a couple different things that you can run here, like the PvP specific perks, like penetrating, backstab, or stuff like that. If that even is possible to put on, would be interesting. A vicious would be really nice. I couldn't get a vicious one, but we have the round shield over here. We got vicious on the round shield. So I still have my vicious. That just means when I'm critting extra hard. When I'm backstabbing extra hard. And since a backstab is always a crit, I'm going to backstab and crit extra hard. That's super nice. And then refreshing shield aggression. Of course, shield aggression is on all of these shields. Refreshing, kind of to round out our 4 out of 4 refreshing stacks here. Sturdy, not really my favorite, but I couldn't find another shield with vicious on. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of blocking on a build like this, even though we have a shield. I don't like focusing on blocking. That definitely isn't bad, but I would prefer like enchanted or keenly jagged or something interesting on that shield. So if you can find a shield that has vicious on and refreshing and maybe some other offensive perk that allows you to do more damage, I think that would make more sense here. So just so you know. When we mentioned this, we're using Leeching Ascent. I love this thing. I use it on all my builds right now. This makes a lot of sense to use, in my opinion. You can kind of avoid being hit by just flying up, and then once you come back down, you do a lot of damage. You stagger people, and you're going to heal for the damage that you do. So this is like for these oh shit moments when a lot of people jump you and you're almost about to die. You pop this thing, and you're going to heal a lot. Are you still playing? Well, what do you think, AGS? What do you think? Of course I'm still playing. Let's look at the jewelry here. We got Divine Empowered Health. Divine, always nice, getting extra healing. Empowered, extra nice. When you get an empowered, it lasts extra, 33% extra, and a little bit of extra health. I am a fan of getting health on these pieces, as you've noticed. You don't have to. You can go for other stuff, but for me, it's just health is so universal. on every build. Getting extra health is nice because, yes, you can build against very specific things. Oh, maybe you want to build against slash damage. Maybe you want to build against fire damage. Maybe you want to build against ranged attacks. You can always do that, but I feel like health just covers everything. Having extra health is going to give you just a bigger buffer, right? So health is universal. So I just like that. It doesn't matter what people hit you with. You have more health, which helps you deal with whatever damage it is that people throw at you. So yeah, that's the one. The ring I already showed you, Healing Breeze, Hardy, Void Damage. Healing Breeze is super, super nice to have. Hardy is honestly, not running Hardy just feels wrong. Like that extra 10% stamina means that you can roll twice and you still have stamina left, which is a big thing because once your stamina is gone, it's going to regen very slowly. You're going to move slower, and you won't be able to dodge anymore. You won't be able to jump anymore. You won't be able to block anymore. So once that stamina is gone, you're kind of effed, to be honest. So having that hardy just means you can do a double roll when you really need to, and you still have stamina left, which is just so important in my opinion. And then Endless Thirst, pick this one up. Not sure if I really, really, really like it. It definitely isn't bad because 33% extra healing from your consumables definitely is nice. Having a longer potion cooldown definitely isn't. But I put Refreshing Toast on this one, so we kind of cut the 25% by 10% again. I don't know how the math works out on this one. If this is like 10% off 25%, probably not. Probably just cuts it down to 15%, right? So you're still going to get a little bit longer cooldowns on your consumables, but the 33% extra healing should make up for that. Also, you gain Empower and you gain some Fortify when you drink a potion. So that's really nice to have. Yeah, and that's basically it. For the consumables, of course, as always, we're going to use infused on everything. Infused mana potions are right now the cheapest ones. I told you in the past the strong mana potions were the cheapest ones. It has changed. The strong ones cost a lot of money now. The infused ones are the cheap ones. But yeah, you kind of want to check which ones are the cheapest. Since we're using the fire staff a lot on this thing, and your mana is actually dropping, running the infused ones is definitely not bad, but honestly, just see if you can get tier 3, tier 4, or tier 5 ones. Choose the ones that are the cheapest, because they're all pretty decent. Even if you're using a tier 3 one, it's gonna be all right, right? That's basically it. That's basically it. But yeah, that's the build. Of course, for food we're using banana bread, but you can also use the fruit salad as long as you end up having the right stats, which is, as I said, 300 strength, 150 intelligence, and 150 constitution. That's all that counts, and that's the build, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you like it. I hope you give it a try. I really like this playstyle, having that range, having that typical fire staff playstyle, but then being able to switch it up and go melee and have a nice and strong sword and board setup feels really good to me. And I think it's probably the best weapon you can play with the fire staff. Sure, you can play hammer, you can play great axe, great sword. That would all work, but there's just a certain snappiness, a certain responsiveness about the sword and board that I really like. And I'm probably going to explore a fire staff hatchet build next, so keep an eye out for that one. I'm looking forward to that. That's probably going to work really well too. But yeah, that's the build. I'm going to leave you with some footage here. Also, enjoy the Upheaval Knievel song. It's a banger. And that's basically it. Like, subscribe, and comment. Don't forget that. That's super important. And I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Who leaps at you and smacks you hard? Upheaval Knievel, Upheaval Knievel. Who takes advantage when you drop your guard? Upheaval Knievel, Upheaval Knievel. Who's gonna be there when your life falls apart? Upheaval Knievel, Upheaval Knievel. And who can beat you in Mario Kart? Upheaval Knievel, Upheaval Knievel. It's a bud, it's a blade, it's Superman. Upheaval Knievel with a sword in hand. He's
Oh, Upheaval Knievel.
Who trips you up and makes you fall? Upheaval Knievel, Upheaval Knievel. Who never answers when you call? Upheaval Knievel, Upheaval Knievel. Who is the man that you desire? Upheaval Knievel, Upheaval Knievel. Cuts break lines, and
Upheaval
slashes
Knievel.
tires. Upheaval Knievel,
Yay!
Upheaval
Get out of here.
Knievel. It's a bird, it's a blade, it's Superman. Upheaval Knievel with a sword in hand. He's faster than a bullet and stronger than your mom. Upheaval Knievel puts the pressure on.
Upheaval Knievel! Upheaval Knievel!
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman. Upheaval Knievel with a sword in hand. He's faster than a bullet and stronger than your mom. Upheaval Knievel puts the pressure
Bang.
on.
Upheaval Knievel.